We already know website traffic is going in the toilet. People are not using websites to the same degree as they once did because
Yeah.
even if you're in Google, the AI overview will just answer the question for you without needing to do all that work of clicking through to see the answer. That is a big opportunity as AI kind of steals site traffic from all of us. Where we need to provide value is in content that doesn't already exist. And so that's part of the power of working with these AI tools.
Welcome to the Best Part of Travel podcast, brought to you by Arival, where we take you inside the business of destination experiences. I'm Janelle Visser, and I'm here with Steve and Joyce.
Hi.
And today we're going to be talking about AI, where we're at with AI in the travel experiences sector, how it's being used today, and the upcoming AI forum at Arival. And we have actually a very special guest, Janette Roush, who is the Chief AI Officer at Brand USA. Before we get into that, to kick things off, Stephen,
Yes.
who is your favorite AI character?
Ooh, my favorite AI character, and you would think that it would be some, one of the robots in Star Wars, but it's not, because I'm a huge Star Wars fan, but I'm also a big Star Trek fan. And my favorite AI character is Data from Star Trek: The Next Generation. And I really like Data because he is a very positive expression of artificial intelligence in the science fiction world. Like a lot of sci-fi AI is depicted as being, very destructive, malignant, like it basically wants to destroy humanity as soon as it becomes sentient. But Data, being a sentient artificial life form, it's actually trying to become more human, which is a very, I think, noble and really sort of positive depiction of AI, that it learns that it wants to be better, that it's not there to destroy humanity, but help us be better. And it's a reflection. He reflects a lot of the negativity back upon the characters as well as the audience in terms of how humans treat each other, how we treat other species, other people. And I really like that aspect of his character, is that he's a bit of a mirror for us and our behavior towards each other.
Well, yeah, it's an interesting example, actually, because when ChatGPT first came out, one of the first conversations I had with ChatGPT was, are you going to be more like Commander Data from Star Trek, or are you going to be more like the Borg? And do you know what ChatGPT said? And for those who are not Star Trek literate, the Borg, they are the bad guys. They are trying to assimilate everyone and destroy. So they're really the opposite kind of than the optimistic Commander Data learning about humanity and, experiencing human things. And ChatGPT said, it depends how humans use me. So basically, it could go either way.
Well, that's not great.
Yeah.
Because we don't have a great track record as humans. Let's hope we can inject some positivity into ChatGPT. So how about you, Janelle? Who's your favorite AI character?
Speaking of positivity, actually, the character that I immediately thought of was not a very positive character, not like an evil character by any means, but Marvin the Paranoid Android from Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. He is just so funny. I love him so much because he's the most emo robot you'll ever meet. He is programmed with a personality. He's a very highly intelligent, very highly developed robot. He has this huge head. And so he makes all these jokes about, someone with his brain the size of a planet has to do these menial tasks, but he's super emo. He's just so depressed all the time. And so he's voiced in the film adaptation, because the original was a radio show. In the film adaptation, he's voiced by Alan Rickman. So you can picture Alan Rickman's just very matter-of-fact voice, and then saying all these things like, they're like, oh, Marvin, you saved our lives. And he's like, oh, what a pity.
He's got such a great voice.
He's so emo in this show. So I don't know what.
Hilarious.
I named my first Apple computer Marvin the Paranoid Android. So, he's always been a little part of me for some reason.
Yeah.
Opposites attract, I guess, because I'm generally a pretty positive, optimistic person, but I love him. He's hilarious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
so anyway, Let's get into this episode. But before we
Mhm.
do, a message from our podcast sponsor.
Protect Group offers a service called Refund Protect. The way it works is that an operator or reseller offers Refund Protect at the time of checkout for an extra fee, usually around 10% of the ticket price. If the guest can't go because of some unforeseen circumstance, they request a refund through Refund Protect and they get 100% of their money back. The best part is the operator keeps 100% of their revenue and they make a little extra. So to find out more, go to protect.group/bestpartoftravel.
All right, so let's get into it. We are talking about AI in this episode. And AI continues to be a hot topic in travel and in everything, basically. I think most of the conversations I've had with random strangers over the last few months, AI has come up in some way. So it's everywhere.
It's everywhere.
It's everywhere. And it was our number one travel trend for 2025 on the first episode of this season that we did with Dan Christian from Travel Trends. So there's a lot of AI going on, but also, and this is really the reason I want to feature this in this episode, is that we have the AI Forum coming up in September. This is happening alongside the regular Arival event. The AI Forum is a separate event that you can go to before the main Arival event. And we're going to be talking everything AI at the AI Forum. So this is the first time we're doing it. We're super excited about it. And Janette Roush, who is our guest today, she's been a key part of organizing the AI Forum alongside the Arival team and a few others. She's going to be one of the key speakers at the AI Forum, as well as at the Arival event. She'll be on stage as well. But also, she was just a really fun person to talk to about AI. We had such a fascinating conversation and we had such a great time. So I'm super excited to share this conversation.
I think it's interesting too that she's coming from the perspective of a destination, right? She works,
Yeah.
She's the chief AI officer for Brand USA, which is a national DMO.
Yeah.
So to see the destinations engaging with AI in this way is kind of interesting. And, you know, we can talk more about that after the interview, but yeah, it's a great interview.
Yeah. And she's so passionate and excited about AI. And, you know, she's using it herself, both in her work and personally in some very practical and creative ways, which she'll share a little bit about. And, you know, she's been an early adopter from ChatGPT from day one, but now she has a job title that didn't even exist a couple of years ago, like Chief AI Officer. That didn't exist. And now it does. So it's just very cool to hear her perspective.
Yeah, for sure. Let's get into it.
Let's get into it. I see that you have a background in digital marketing. So what led you to your current position working with AI?
It feels very much like it happened by chance because it was purely the day that ChatGPT came out. My brother sent me a text and without any commentary, just a link to access the tool.
Right.
And then I saw that, it needs both a email and a phone number. And he didn't say what it was. I'm like, I don't know what this spammy nonsense is. And I ignored it.
Okay.
And then 2 days later, I was on a trip with a friend and she's like, have you seen this? I'm like, oh, this is the thing my brother shared with me.
Yeah.
And as you said, like I have a background in marketing. I have experienced being on kind of that, that verge that something's coming. So whether it was the internet when I was first in New York City in 1997 and kind of seeing the possibilities and opportunities that the internet was going to bring to things like ticketing.
Yeah.
I started my career in New York City at Theater Direct International. So selling tickets to Broadway shows to the travel industry. And we were acquired by Broadway.com in 2000. So being able to see that particular process where ticketing went from send me an email and I will send a runner to the box office to buy a ticket into, APIs and what it looks like today. I saw that happen. And I saw that happen again around social media and, where Facebook came out for the grownups like me who weren't in college. It's like, hey, this is going to be a big deal.
Yeah.
So when my friend said, log into ChatGPT, tell me what you think, when we were on a bus ride out to New Jersey, I'm like, well, what is it good for? What does it do? And she's like, it literally does anything. And so I asked it to write an ad for New York City tourism from the perspective of a pigeon. And it did it. And that was my first ever prompt. And I was sucked in from that moment on.
Did you run that ad? Did you run the pigeon ad?
No. It was like a conversational.
Yeah.
It didn't really read like ad copy. It definitely needed the human in the loop. I was just astonished that something existed that could do this, though. Yeah. Even today, I can't believe that we all have access, to these tools largely for free.
Yeah.
You get to see what they are capable of without opening your wallet. That's incredible.
Yeah, it's been pretty cool to see this. So I guess on that note then, what are some of the most promising or interesting or surprising applications of AI you've seen specifically in travel?
Honestly, I live more in the practical and tactical use of AI. So I love to be wowed by it. Like right now, my biggest wow use case is working with a tool called Descript, like short for description.
Yeah.
And
I know Descript. Yeah.
Oh man. So it takes video and audio content. Do you use it to edit this podcast?
I will. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I'm using it right now to create an educational series on TikTok. So I do regular webinars for the travel industry, showcasing how ChatGPT and other AI tools work and how to use them for, typically very practical things. But a tool like this allows me, who has absolutely no video or audio editing experience, I could upload the Zoom recordings of those training sessions. And so right now I'm in the process of taking my 101 course and turning it into 30 to 90 second clips that you will be able to watch on TikTok. And it shows like the slide from the presentation. You hear my voice from the presentation. I was able to add subtitles or captions rather. And then I made an avatar of myself that looks like a yarn doll. And so it's educational content from a yarn doll so that I didn't have to re-record the video piece. Or I tried using the human, like a picture as the avatar of myself. And it really hit that uncanny valley.
I saw the Play-Doh version of you, and then you were squishing it, and that was very creepy. I'm not gonna lie. I was like, no, it looks like a real face being squished.
I know. And it's so and that stuff, I love to have fun with the tools.
Yeah.
But I also want to keep it grounded in what's practical. So for me, that's practical because it gets your attention, right? But then I want you to listen to what I'm saying. So I don't want you just to be focused on Play-Doh, Janette.
Yeah, exactly. And so I love the focus on practical because I think we can easily get lost in all of the, thousands of tools that come out every day or every week or whatever. Where do you see AI delivering the most impact or the most possibility, specifically for tour operators and attractions? Because that's what we're talking about, at the AI forum.
I think it's going to come down to taking AI tools and using it to write little pieces of software or little SaaS programs that then are perfectly customized for our own individual use case. So I think a couple of years from now, if you want, a CRM, a customer relationship management tool.
Yeah.
I think if you are a small tour operator, I'm going to guess that that's a little bit of a pain point. Those tools can be expensive. They take a lot of customization to work for your specific business. So just imagine sitting down, and I think right now, this can already happen inside of Claude, which is a competitor to ChatGPT. I don't think you will need to know how to write code. And I don't think it's going to take a lot of fancy software or tools. I think it's just, I'm looking for a CRM that captures this information and I don't need this other information. And just using plain language, you're going to be able to spin up instantaneously all these little tools that can do small tasks for you. And I think particularly in the attraction space, there's a lot of just solopreneurs or very small businesses to have the ability to write your own code whenever you need it, that's really powerful. I think that's, and so it's not the pieces of software like this CRM I'm describing, it in itself may not use AI. It may be very straightforward. It's just, saving information in a database.
Yeah.
But the fact that AI can make that possible, and then in the future, I think it'll be very easy to imagine that whatever phone recording tool you use, whatever meeting transcriber you use, it will automatically, without you doing anything, take the relevant information from that phone call and put it in your database. So it's that type of work becoming more simplified that I think is going to benefit the attractions and tours space the most.
Yeah, that's interesting. The kind of bringing it down into the little bits of what happens in attractions or in tours and CRMs and all those little things. I haven't actually tried making any softwares myself. Maybe I should play around with that a little bit more. Yeah.
Give it a try. There's a tool called Lovable. So it's lovable.dev, I believe. And you just type in what you are looking for and it builds it in front of your eyes.
That's so cool.
And you get 5 prompts to iterate on that for free per day.
Yeah, that's very cool. And so are you able to share how you're using it at Brand USA? What are some interesting use cases that you have?
We like to look at the tools kind of department by department. So that's what we're in the process of right now, is moving from all of the individual ways that people are using AI and trying to bring that across a department. So if you look at a department like HR, we have 3 people in our HR team, but HR as a practice is going to encompass recruiting and staff retention and loyalty and education, learning and development. Like there's 8 or 9 different really broad areas that fall to HR. So we want to sit and look at each of those areas and say, all right, performance reviews. This isn't on our immediate short list because we finished that a few months back. But for the next round of performance reviews, maybe instead of pretending, the staff is secretly using AI to complete their performance review, and then the managers are also secretly using AI to write the performance reviews.
Right.
And not saying that was what was happening here, but we know that in general that is happening.
Yeah.
Take it out of the shadows. Right?
Right.
Make some custom GPTs that walk people through the process of completing that self-review so that instead of just filling out a Word template, you're having this interactive conversation, and then do the same thing with the managers so that when you come together for your review conversation, it's informed by a deeper level of thought than it might have been otherwise. So I'm looking for Brand USA at department by department, finding those wins that build kind of our AI systems internally. But
and
really,
go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, and some of the use cases are really small and silly. We have, a complicated expense policy. We now have that uploaded into a custom GPT, which is like a single use prompt inside of ChatGPT. So it's just one prompt. You get to ask it questions over and over. And it's like starting from scratch every time. So you can say, what tier city is Chicago? How much is my per diem in London? Am I allowed to book business travel flights to this destination? And instead of looking at a 45-page document, you just get the answer.
I could see how that would be really helpful. Yeah, even for the process of putting in your expenses. But how about for like destination marketing? Because that's one of your big purposes as an organization, right? So how does AI factor into that these days? And how does that trickle down to tour operators?
So from the destination marketing perspective, I think it allows us to more easily incorporate research into the work that we do. Right. So, and certainly I'm not in the marketing team at Brand USA. I'm part of the operations team. I will say definitely at New York City, when I was there before coming to Brand in October, I was using AI constantly for putting together campaign strategy. So, and I know there's people on our team who have used it for similar things. So how do we, narrow in on who the focus target audience is for a particular campaign? When I was working at New York City on the New York City America 250 campaign, which is called Founded by NYC, we knew that New York City needs to compete against, Philadelphia and DC and Boston, all of whom have really strong claims to why you would have a historical or heritage trip during America's 250, right?
Yeah.
Whereas New York City tore down all of our old stuff. So I was able to work with AI to focus in on who are the target audiences that we are looking at.
Yeah.
Like priming our prompt with truth. Brand USA, we have access to lots of great research from our research partners. So it's working with them to ensure, are you comfortable that we take your research and upload that to a safe, protected, SOC 2 compliant version of ChatGPT? And then we have a resource where, do you need to understand travel motivations for European visitors who are planning a USA trip? I have a pre-written prompt where any question I have about the motivations of those travelers, I can get a really great, succinct answer back. And so it was that type of work that I used in New York City to put together the creative brief for Founded by NYC.
And so I know you said you're not on the marketing team now, but something that I know a lot of operators have been dealing with, particularly in the US, is this reticence for international travelers to visit the US right now. Is there a way that you guys are using AI to kind of help navigate that? Do you know what I mean?
So we launched at IPW a new campaign called America the Beautiful that is aimed squarely at addressing inbound tourism. And so as part of to create a landing page experience for this campaign, we have a new website that launched at americathebeautiful.com. And it's allowing us to have a test ground for what websites might look like, not in the long future, but a year from now. How will we all use websites? Because we already know website traffic is going in the toilet. People are not using websites to the same degree as they once did, because even if you're in Google, the AI overview will just answer the question for you without needing to do all that work of clicking through to see the answer. And so this new landing page, this new website actually takes advantage of the fact that people are starting to use AI more for their trip planning. And it has a partnership with an AI trip planning tool called MindTrip, which is integrated all throughout the site. So, whereas I think the old days of website chatbots, you would just see a little icon in the corner, inviting someone to chat with you.
Right.
So now, instead of just having icon in the corner, there's questions and pre-written prompts all throughout the website that are different based on what landing page you are on and what content you are reading. And so these prompts, when you click on them, it opens up the full MindTrip experience with that prompt already populated in the chatbot. And so it gives you, if you are new to using AI, it gives you this kind of sneak peek of, this is how an AI trip planning tool actually looks and works when I am using it. And then on the back end, I'm interested in seeing what the experience is for the international visitors who are using this site. It's like a great way to provide, multilingual assistance. The tool is natively available in probably any language that somebody would want to come and converse with it in. But then selfishly, we get to see what are the kinds of questions that people are asking. Are there gaps in our content? And that is a big opportunity as AI kind of steals site traffic from all of us. Where we need to provide value is in content that doesn't already exist. And so this shows us what content already doesn't exist that people are looking for, so that we can create that content. And so that's part of the power of working with these AI tools, is that we're able to see those trends and what people want before it's going to come out, in a research report 6 or 12 months
Right.
later.
Yeah. And so are there any surprises so far that you've found that are missing and that maybe could be applicable as well to like tour operators and attraction websites?
Oh, you got me on holiday brain a little bit.
That's okay.
I'm like, I have been on vacation for the last 4 days. I would have to open it up and give a look. We haven't started putting paid promotion behind it yet. So
Okay.
it's
This
still
is still
very
in the experimental stage.
yes.
Okay,
It's still in its infancy. I haven't
I'm
had
looking
a
forward
great
to
insight
hearing.
yet.
I'm looking forward to hearing more about it. I imagine at the AI forum, maybe by then you'll be able to share
I
something.
think so.
Ah.
That is our goal. I am hoping by late September we're going to have a lot of insights to share.
So let's talk a little bit about the AI forum. You're involved in the planning of that and you're going to be involved in the execution of it. Can you share a little bit from your perspective? Why is this such an important thing to be doing now in 2025 at Arival?
Oh boy, I think that AI it's the perfect moment for, attraction providers who, whether or not you are involved with AI at this moment, this is the moment for you to get involved with it. I think we're past, the first 3 years of everything being really imperfect. Probably my entire first year of exploring and experimenting with AI was just figuring out workarounds. I want it to, something very important with AI is giving it context so that it's answering your questions based on facts and not on whatever it makes up. So there were a lot of limitations around how much context could, any of these tools hold at one time while working for you. So I'm like spending all my time figuring out, if you do this, then you can cheat, and get it to look at a website without knowing it's looking at a website. Stuff that now you don't have to deal with because these tools are ready for the office. They're all working rapidly on these connectors that, goodness, if you are in the Google Workplace suite, get a Gemini Pro account and you will get help answering your emails inside of the Gmail platform, writing first drafts of copy and text, pulling in all of the information that is currently in your Google Drive. Like the tools are now designed to work with a great deal of context at one time, which makes it much more plug and play for a small business owner. So I don't think it's a huge barrier to entry still at this point. All it takes is curiosity. So if you're, an attraction, a tour operator who has been playing in this stuff, I think that this event is going to be an opportunity to find your people. I know I am always looking for my people and I'm so happy when I find them. But there's the other side of it, which is if you are new and learning, this is the chance to get, surrounded by peers and other people who are at that level with you to kind of just hold hands and take the lead. So I'm really excited for the breadth of programming that's being set up for this. If you want to play with different AI tools and understand how they work and see them in action, I think this is going to be a great opportunity for that. And then I think there's going to be a lot of really interesting thought leadership about what do our jobs look like in a few years. So it's going to be a lot different than it looks today.
Yeah, well, I imagine your job didn't exist a few years ago.
No,
your job kind of was it chief AI officer?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a new one.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I think just like on a personal level, I think it's really cool to see like a woman in that position at
Thank
Brand
you.
USA, because most of the people that I've talked to about AI are guys and they're great, but it's like the tech thing where, it's usually more rare to find female leadership in tech and now in AI. So personally, I find that inspiring. Do you want to say anything on that note?
I do.
Yeah.
I do because
Okay.
because I agree. And thank you for bringing it up. And I have a big kind of axe to grind at the moment about female adoption of AI because Harvard Business Review released a study in April where they did a meta study of over 200 studies that had been done around the world about AI adoption. And I mean, they looked at big populations and very specific populations and at work and for personal use and just across the board. They saw through all of these studies that women were lagging behind men in adoption of AI by about 20 points. And there's zero reason for that. We all got access to the technology at the same time. There is no reason, but there are some hypotheses on why that is happening. One of the hypotheses is that women are frequently taught that there's a right and a wrong way to do things and that you need to follow the rules to do things correctly. And perhaps that is in opposition to what might be considered a more male's mindset that, you know, is embraced in tech, right? Move fast and break things. And I think, you know, the reverse of that, you know, my husband will tease me occasionally that I'm out of the cast members of Friends, like I'm a Monica. And I'm like,
Okay.
oh, really?
Really?
I don't think that's a compliment. Ew. It's like, what, you want to be one of those two other girls? No. But the thing about Monica that kind of is like, oh, I don't want to be her because she's a goody, right? She's a rule follower. But then I'm like, I also kind of am secretly a rule follower. I don't want to be accused of cheating. And a lot of talk around AI is connected to that word of cheating. And so I think it's permeated our heads a little bit. And we have to fight back and remember that if we work for a nonprofit, like me, I work for a DMO, we are stewards of public money. So do we want to spend 7 hours on a mindless task or 7 minutes on it? I think we have a responsibility to spend our funding as responsibly as possible. And I think that includes using AI where it makes sense to do so. And then I think for public or commercial companies, if you're not learning how to incorporate AI into your work, someone else who is a competitor will.
Yeah.
And that's not even focused on women or men's adoption of AI. That's just a bigger lesson for everybody listening to this is please, particularly, the smaller operators. You don't want somebody to come along and be able to undercut your costs because all of the work you do manually or through paying expensive SaaS fees and support staff, they're able to do with a smaller, more efficient shop.
Yeah, absolutely. So many. I feel like we could talk forever about this, but we can dig in more deeply with everyone in Arival at the AI Forum. So last question, if you had to pick one area where you think AI will be transformative for the experience sector in the next 5 years, what would that be?
I want to say discovery. I certainly hope that part of what AI can do is make it easier to connect people who are looking for something really weird and specific to be able to find that exact experience wherever it is in the world. And so, I think we are moving away from the top 10 list version of travel. It makes sense that that's the type of content that the internet rewarded. And so that's the kind of content we all learned to create. Yeah. Top 10 restaurants in New York City. But people don't necessarily want to visit the top 10 restaurants in New York City. They want to, visit the ones that are most uniquely going to make them happy in that exact moment. And I think it's going to be the same thing for a guided tour or visiting an observation deck or going to a Broadway show. Some people just want to go to a Broadway show. Great. There's lots of theaters and they all have shows playing in them. You will find one. But most people want a very specific, they want it to scratch a specific itch. And I think it's the same thing with a walking tour. I don't want to say, oh, great, I'm going to Tuscany actually in a couple of weeks. Do I want to go on a Tuscan walking tour? Or do I want to go on a walking tour that speaks uniquely to all of Janette Roush's weird and specific interests? Right. I want that one. And so I think that's what AI is going to be able to do for us, is to be kind of that perfect matchmaker to let me know about all of the stuff that I don't even know already exists.
Yeah, you can be your best yarn self. That tour. Okay, so Stephen, what stood out to you from that discussion?
A few things. So I mentioned this very, very quickly before the interview, but just the fact that her number one thing when you asked her about what is the biggest impact AI is going to have, and she said discovery, right? Which I think is, but that's also when you think about from a DMO's perspective, what is important to destinations, it's the discovery, right? It's the ability for people to find those things that are interesting to them, that they're passionate about easily and quickly in a way that provides them with access to content and information that they might not easily get access to if they were just using another form of search, or if they were, doing their visiting of 35 different websites before they find the thing that they want to book, kind of thing. So, if it reduces the planning process, the discovery and planning process for people, reduces that down, but still makes it fun, because that's a really important aspect of discovery. A lot of travel planners, and we've talked about this before as well, is that, a lot of travel planning, mostly travel planning apps and websites and stuff start off with the whole notion that I tried to book a trip with my partner and it was so cumbersome, and so I decided to build a trip planning tool. and basically ChatGPT and other generative AI tools are now trip planning tools. That's like, you don't need to build your own. Like, you can literally go into, I just used it actually before this recording. I sat down because I'm going to be doing a trip to London and Berlin and Gothenburg in the fall. And I was like, what things can I do while I'm in these 3 destinations, given these date ranges? And it came back and I said, I love food, culture, and meeting people. What are the sorts of things that I can do? And it came back with a list of things that probably would have taken me hours to research if I'd gone through traditional websites. And I think that is where the power from a discovery standpoint. Now, that's just in its early days. Like, imagine where this will go in the future, but you can do that now and it's pretty good. That's even improved from a year ago when the results were mediocre, if at all, at best. Now the results are actually quite good. All the sources are listed. So these are things that you can verify, which I think is really, really critical. So that's the main part.
Yeah, the source listing is very important because there's been a lot of issues with the early stages of hallucination, and there's all those stories about like lawyers that use ChatGPT for their documents and they came up with totally fake case studies, and so people have been eager to use it, and it hasn't really been ready for what they've been using it for. But yeah, one of the points that Janette made is that it's been a good 3 years or so since this really started coming out. And, ChatGPT wasn't the first evolution of AI. AI existed before that. It's just really what made it massively available to people. But yeah, it's come a long way, and it is ready for some of those more advanced uses now, and really getting down to the practical things beyond just using it to make funny pictures or using it to do like content creation. There's so many more ways that you can use it now. So much more.
Yeah.
And, she talks about, she has a background in marketing, but she's not really on the marketing side of her organization. She's more on the operational side. And so they're looking at how they can use it operationally in the back end that the public doesn't see, to be more efficient and to, do things better. So
I thought her example of the CRM was actually really interesting. The whole idea, because one of the biggest challenges, and we know this from being on the technology side of the industry so much, one of the biggest things is connectivity and distribution. But the ability now to create codeless connections between APIs. I haven't tested this, so I'm actually gonna try this before Arrival. But I'm going to see how easy it is to create an API connection between the Octo standard, which is the nonprofit distribution standards body that exists within the tours and activity space, and like one of the leading OTAs. I'm going to see whether one of these tools can create, a connection, a mapping between those two APIs, and see how long that takes. Because I think if AI can help to speed up connectivity and distribution within the space, that will make a huge difference in terms of the viability and sustainability of the industry moving forward. Because that's a huge challenge, especially for small operators that are either on platforms that don't connect, or they're using bespoke systems, or they're not using systems at all, right? There could be ways to create connections between things as simple as, Google Sheets. If you have your inventory in Google Sheets, for example, right? Like how do you could create like really interesting ways of connecting systems together that aren't traditionally meant to be connected.
Yeah.
And that's where I see AI being really valuable, is solving some of those, what would normally be very expensive, very arduous, very complicated tasks. And I'm not saying we take away jobs from people, but those tend to be very like annoying things to build. And people don't like to build annoying things. Some people do. I won't take that away from, some people do enjoy those types of things. So I'm not taking away from them. But I'm saying for most people, those types of niggly piggly problems, if those can be solved, it means that humans can focus on the really interesting problems and try to find solutions to those, right? And use AI as tools to help them rather than relying on AI as the means of solving the problem.
Right.
I think that's the key.
Yeah. And I loved some of her examples of creative uses too. Like she made a yarn version of herself.
Yes.
AI yarn Janette. And she uses that to make these little TikTok videos based on clips from webinars she's done. So when you get a webinar recording, often the video quality is not very good. If you want to share that, depending on the system, you might be on a screen with 15 other people. So you don't have a very good quality recording. So to solve that, she was like, well, why don't I just make an AI yarn version of myself? I don't know how that came about, but so that's what she's doing. And she's all over TikTok with it. So and,
I think I'd go with like a Muppet version of myself. I think that'd be fun.
She actually did a little yarn Janette promo for the AI forum, so we can share the link for that.
That'd be
check
fun.
It out.
Yeah,
it's very fun. But for me, I guess this is probably not surprising, but the other part of the conversation that was really fascinating is just her take on women in AI. Because, women in tech, women in travel tech has always been an issue. Women in STEM, it's always been this issue of there's just a lot less women than men in these fields. And as AI has come to the forefront, it's the same pattern. It's like, it's mostly men that are doing it. And so I asked her, what's your take on that? And she basically said, there's not really any reason for it. We all got access to the technology at the same time. So it's really, there's some theories. I thought one of her theories was interesting, where she talks about how women are just a little bit more rule followers and we don't want to be seen as cheating in some way. And, there's this association with using AI secretly as maybe cheating. And she mentions how in their organization, they're trying to bring it to the forefront. Like, okay, we know everyone's secretly using AI, so let's just all non-secretly use it. Let's just bring it out and let's officially make use of it. And, she obviously had no problems experimenting, but she drew this distinction between like being more of a rule follower or being more of a like startup mentality, break it and then learn something and move on. And, that kind of idea. So I was inspired by that. And it was cool to hear her take on that.
Yeah. As I was listening to that too, the first thing I thought in my head was that women in general tend to be much more considerate and in terms of how they approach things, right?
Right.
They tend to take a much broader view of things, a more holistic view of things, where men, and I know this only because I am one and because I have worked with many in tech, tend to be very single-minded in their approaches to things. So they will hyper-focus on things without regard for the consequences. So they're much more risk averse than I think women tend to be in technology. Like I could see, and this would be an interesting actually conversation to have with Janette in the future and with other women in tech, is that when we talk about things like AI, are women more likely to think about the outcomes of using AI more so, and potentially the negative outcomes of using AI more so than men would, right? Where men look at it as this is an opportunity to build something fast and make more money and gain more power and more knowledge, where women might take the approach of, is this useful for humanity? Is this actually good for us, right? Is this going to make our lives better? And how is it going to make our lives better? And sort of look at it from that approach. Because I can see the two kind of in conflict. I think in some ways, the idea of, getting back to what we talked about with data is that you have these two sort of conflicting ideas around what the eventual manifestation of AI looks like. One is AI considers us a threat, which is a very male approach, right?
Yeah.
Men always consider everyone a threat. When it comes to competition, or whether it comes to, when it comes to power, or whether it comes to knowledge. And so they see it as AI sees us as a threat and then destroys us. Whereas the other approach, the data approach, being very empathetic and sort of wanting to learn and understand and become more human, that and embrace that humanity, is sort of a softer approach to AI and where AI will eventually lead us. When you said ChatGPT gave you the answer, it's how we use it.
Yeah.
I would like to think that we would use it for good, but there's a very good chance that it could be used for not good. And I think we have to be very careful how we use that tool and be considerate. And so I think having someone like Janette in a position like this makes me feel better about where AI is going, right? Because if it was just left up to the Elon Musks of the world, I think I would be very scared about AI.
I feel like that makes me feel a little bit Marvin the Paranoid Android vibes, Oh no.
Oh no. Am I being a Marvin the Paranoid Android?
It's all hopeless.
Yeah.
Well, anyways, I'm glad we were able to share this conversation, and I hope that maybe some folks will be inspired to check out the AI forum, because we have a lot of other amazing speakers that are going to be there as well. And I actually love what Janette said about it, is the AI forum, whether you've been experimenting with AI for a while or you're new and you want to get into it, it's the place to find your people.
Mm-hmm.
And I
to
just
hold
love that.
hands together and take that leap together,
it's
right?
like, yes, it's about AI and it's about technology, but it's also about meeting other people who are also in the travel space, who are also in travel or tour companies, who are using AI, and connecting with each other and learning from each other. And it's going to be an awesome time. So yeah, hopefully we'll see lots of you there. This was so much fun.
And that brings us to the end of another exciting episode of The Best Part of Travel. Make sure you follow and share this podcast with your friends. We'd really appreciate it. And don't forget to check out the AI forum at Arival.Travel. So from Janelle and myself, thanks so much, and we'll see you next time on The Best Part of Travel.